Let's talk some sports, baby.
Taken by Iguodala. Iguodala to Curry. Back to Iguodala. Up for the layup. Oh, blocked by Jones.
And remember, make tomorrow better than today, and make today better than yesterday. And you know what we gonna do. We gonna holler at you until next time, baby.
Draft coverage. Draft is just 8 days away, and today we're previewing the AFC and NFC South, starting with the AFC. The Jaguars lead the South with a stock of 12 picks for their rebuild. The Titans pick 29th, while the Colts and Texans have traded their first-round picks. So, Drink, we'll start with Jacksonville, picking 9th and 20th. How do they finally get it right in the first round?
Well, listen, I don't know the answer to that question, how they finally get it right. Man. I'm just going to tell you what I think they should do. Will they get it right? I don't know, but you know better than me. I don't know how you finally get it right. But with that said, hey, I'm looking at the three positions I'm looking at for the Jacksonville Jaguars. I'm thinking first they take an offensive tackle. I'm hearing a lot of noise about Cam Robinson his time might be up there in Jacksonville. So if you do believe that with the 9th pick and you do have one of these gentlemen, Tristan Wirth out of Iowa or Jedrick Wills out of Alabama, or even Becton out of Louisville for that fact of the matter, and you go ahead and pick up one of those guys, go ahead and let them be your heir apparent to that offensive tackle spot. And then I'm looking at defensive line. I'm looking at defensive end. Hey, if you want to go there, I think Kavion Chason, he'll be the other guy out of LSU. He should be available around that pick if that's what you want to do. And then the third area of need that I seen was cornerback for me. I mean, you lost A.J. Bouye, you gave away Ramsey, so you got to replace him with somebody. I'm looking at Jalen Johnson out of Utah for that spot. So with that said, the three areas I looked at of concern was offensive tackle, defensive end, and cornerback.
Yeah, I'm with you right on the money as far as defensive end and cornerback. You got to remember, this is a team. They just lost Calais Campbell in free agency. They're presumably going to lose Yannick Ngakoue. He's about sick of being there. He got franchise tag. Don't like that. So I got Chase on as well, a guy they could perhaps pick up with one of their first-round picks. I got C.J. Henderson as well at cornerback out of Florida. Maybe he's a guy you look at. Again, lost Jalen Ramsey, you lost A.J. Bouye, so that's a significant glaring hole that you have at corner. And offensive line, I'm with you on that. I've got Solomon Kenley down, guard out of Georgia, but you also got there could be a possibility, and Cody can speak to this probably better than I can. Maybe you look at moving Cam Robinson to the guard position and getting a tackle in there. One of those first round talents, you already mentioned them. But I think we're on the same page as far as what they need.
Yeah, I mean, this is going to be one of those drafts where I think at 9 you have to wait and see what comes to you as far as the elite premium talent. I think everything I've read and kind of feel for the team is defense is where they're going to start this rebuild off, and I think that they're looking for either Isaiah Simmons or Derek Brown would be the pick if those players get there. But that's if they get there. It does appear that Simmons would likely go to New York at 4, and then Brown, I don't think Brown gets past Carolina at 7. They could if Carolina trades out or something. We'll talk about them in a little bit. But if you get Simmons or Brown, I think that's who they would go with and take. But if they don't, then I think offense in the first pick at 9 is probably going to be. I know Cam Robinson, they're not super happy with him. He hasn't been horrible, but he's been real inconsistent with injuries. It's just not been he hasn't really lived up to that second round billing that he's had. And I think that the right guard is the biggest need. Left guard, I think they're just going to hope Andrew Norwell just gets out of his funk and gets back to how he was his time in Carolina. But I think that they do want to probably keep Cam Robinson. It's not like, he's been so bad we can't field him. It's just we don't maybe want him at left tackle anymore, because really this year is going to be deciding, hey, what do we have with Gardner Minshew? And you can't do that. Nope. We're just throwing him out there with some scarecrows and trash cans and saying, hey man, have fun. You can't do that. So at 9 you have your elite, you have your pick of elite wide receivers. No one really projects a receiver coming off the board before 9. So if you want a Jerry Jeudy or one of the top guys, you can get him. You have DJ Chark, but after him, it's a little questionable. And then, also I like C.J. Henderson for the cornerback position, but they could also come back in the second or third rounds and address that. But it's going to be mostly a defensive draft, I feel like, with them. And then if they're not going to go defense, there's nobody they like on their big board, it is going to be looking at how do we help out Gardner Minshew this year. So we can go ahead and move right along, guys. We have the Colts up next. Jay, what do you think with them without a first-round pick?
Yeah, no first-round pick. They gave that away in the DeForest Buckner trade. You gotta keep in mind this is a team that got Phillip Rivers on the 1-year deal, $25 million. So I'm looking at them with those 2 second-round picks. I think you got to make win now moves. Get guys. You can get guys in the second round that can help you right away. I think wide receiver is a big position for them. We talked about behind T.Y. Hilton. It's a little thin. It's a little questionable. I think you look at T. Higgins out of Clemson. You get a big body receiver who can make contested catches. I think he'd be a great complement to what they have in T.Y. Hilton. And defensive tackle, I think they're a little light. Traditionally, Indianapolis has been a little light in the middle of their defense. I'm looking at a guy, Raekwon Davis from Alabama. Maybe you look at getting him in there, get a little bit more stout against the run. But I still think quarterback is a need. It's just with the lack of a first-round pick, I think you just have to push that down the line. Maybe you look at Anthony Gordon, perhaps in the 4th round out of Washington State, a little bit of a developmental guy. But you can always come back next year and, it'll just be another bridge year, draft a guy in 2021, playing behind Brissett. But I think for the immediate right now with Phillip Rivers in there, you got to get guys that you can surround him with, like a wide receiver, and help him right now so you can try to win this season.
Yeah, I'm on track. I'm definitely on track with you with the wide receiver position. With that 34 pick, hey, that needed to definitely go to a wide receiver. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. However, when we talk about the wide receiver that I had was T. Higgins too. I'm sorry, I was looking at T. Higgins in that, and maybe if you get Jordan Jefferson slide down to you, one of those 2 guys. I don't foresee that, but if one of those 2 guys are available, I think that's what they should do. And then as far as the quarterback pitching, now let's be real. We know how I feel about one Phillip Rivers. However, he is good enough to get the job done. But then what do you have behind him? I think it would be a great opportunity if, he was to get hurt, or if you was to be up in games where you can put in a young rook. Looking at Jordan Love maybe. And maybe, just maybe, if you don't want to go that high, maybe you get Jake Fromm later in the draft. One of those guys that system quarterbacks that have been doing it for a while. Draft one of those guys. Let them be the heir apparent. Listen, from what I hear, Phillip Rivers is a pretty okay teacher. So you can learn something. He commit to him. And you go from there. I mean, you only got him for 1 year. He's not going to be salty about it. He know what the deal is when he signed the contract. And then for the 3rd position, I went with cornerback. I wasn't overly, satisfied with what I seen in a secondary. So I went with cornerback. And I went with the guy, Noah Ngabi from out of Auburn. So with that said, my 3 positions was wide receiver, quarterback, and cornerback for the Colts.
Yeah, pretty much great advice, like for the most part. I also saw the wide receiver hole with them. I think if I was looking for a receiver for them, I would think a little bit bigger guy. Some of the guys that Rivers has been most recently throwing to down there in San Diego was mostly bigger body receivers. So I'd look for a bigger guy for him, a nice target to go opposite of T.Y. Hilton. I also think your pass rushing help is a little low. You lost Jabal Sheard free agency, and Justin Houston gave you about your money's worth, but he's definitely, that clock is ticking for him. So a guy like Jonathan Grenard in the 2nd round from Florida would be a great choice. I think that's a guy that's underrated and is probably going to go sooner than later, despite some of the later 3rd round projections. And then I'll give some love to Bryce Hall, man from Virginia, another guy I think they could target later on in that, maybe that 2nd or 3rd round. They do have 2 second-round picks, I believe, so they could come back maybe or that in the 3rd round. They have the cornerback corps. So Kenny Moore is a very good slot corner, and Rocky Ya-Sin has been a good outside corner for them, but the other side is kind of questionable. So a guy like Bryce Hall I think would fit in nice in that defensive back core there. All right, guys, let's keep it moving right along. Next up, we have the Titans. 6 picks. They have number 29. What are the old Titans doing?
Well, first position I'm looking at with the Titans is that cornerback position. I'll tell you, when they drafted Adoree Jackson, at one point in time, I thought they was going to be talking about something. They drafted Adoree Jackson, and they got Malcolm Butler, and then I don't really know what it transpired to on the back end. So then, as I look at it now, I'm looking at A.J. Terrell out of Clemson. I think he'll make a good fit there. Or even Jeff Glantley out of TCU. I think one of those 2 guys could come in there and help solidify, help Adoree Jackson out. See if I don't even know if Malcolm Butler is still on the team because when he got there, he just, I don't know what that was about. So if he's even motivated to play. So you go get someone that will be motivated to play. My second position was offensive tackle, and I went with Isaiah Wilson out of Georgia. Listen, it's no secret. They thought they was getting Jack Conklin. He hit him with the two-step, the Whopper Sopper, and he went over and signed with Cleveland. We didn't see it coming. We thought they was going to sign him, and he just went exit stage left, and that's what he did. So it left him with a hole at right tackle. I think Isaiah Wilson could come in, plug that hole for him. We'll see, but I think they should go there. And then my third was our defensive end. And listen, with defensive end, defensive tackle, and I went with the big guy that Jay mentioned earlier, Raekwon Davis out of Alabama. I think he could come in, he can stuff that middle, or he could play outside, depending on how they want to use him. And then he could play both positions. So yeah, I went cornerback, offensive tackle, defensive line.
Yeah, I'm definitely with you on all of these, and we got the same exact offensive tackle, the big fella Isaiah Wilson. You want a big guy, physical, who can maul you down here in a run game, and he feels like a Titan at this stage with how they play, with Derrick Henry running the ball, the physicality they play with. I think that makes a lot of sense for them, and I'm with you on the other two positions. I think about cornerback. Don't forget about a guy like Logan Ryan, very good player for a long time, played a slot. I know you got questions about Malcolm Butler. It's confirmed that Logan Ryan is not there, so you definitely have a need. I'm looking at a lesser-known guy, Cameron Dantzler out of Mississippi State. He would be one option. And then defensive line. Remember, Jarrell Casey got traded to Denver. So Davis, he could be a guy that you plug in and play that in that 3-4 at the end position. Or also Justin Madubuike out of Texas A&M. But those are just a couple options. But it's going to be interesting how that pans out because they got the 29th pick. So it'll be interesting to see if anybody falls that we don't think that we see as a mid first round pick. If somebody falls, they could be in a good position to scoop somebody up.
Yeah, that's kind of what you're looking at when you pick in these last couple spots. You kind of just have to see what kind of sifts in the pan there. But yeah, looking around the old flaming thumbtacks talking heads, it does seem like cornerback, wide receiver, and O-line are where you're going to be looking for. The line does make the most sense. I mean, obviously what you just saw with Derrick Henry, I mean, that's the guy, like, if I'm looking around, I got Ryan Tannehill as my quarterback. I'm like, okay, well, that's fine.
Yeah. Yeah, let me So, hey, speaking of that, you said cornerback, right?
Yeah.
Okay, by the way, I just want to say this. I don't have this down. You know they need a quarterback, right? The only reason I'm not saying it here is they probably paid him. They paid him, so they can't do nothing about it. They stuck. But they shouldn't have paid him. They should draft they should be in the quarterback market right now today.
Right now today. Oh man, but yeah, I think y'all are pretty much set up the corner. I think Jeff Gladney's a good pick. Also, maybe Meek Robertson from LA Tech. They consider that. Besides that, wide receiver is another one that I think you could look at. They have something in AJ Brown now for sure, but besides like Corey Davis, kind of the rest of that cast is still questionable. I feel like they could use kind of like a speed slot guy, to kind of slot in there, and then obviously offensive line, depending on who's all there, because there's so many good offensive linemen in this draft. It's going to be really interesting to see if maybe teams either go on a big run on them or opposite, they all think, oh, we can come back in the second round and get this guy, and then the Titans will be there to pick him up beforehand. So we'll see how that goes. And we're going to wrap up here with the Texans, Jay. 7 picks, second and third rounders. What's our favorite GM up to?
You know what? I'm gonna go ahead and give you these needs. Offensive line, outside linebacker, and cornerback. But you said it. Bill O'Brien's a GM, so I have no players identified because he's not gonna make the right decision. So why waste my time?
Listen, I want to agree with Jay. I mean, look, I could have. Anyway, I want to agree with Jay, but I actually do got a couple of players that I throw out there. My first need was cornerback. That secondary is atrocious. I mean,
oh my God, yep,
it's terrible. So I was looking at a guy, Damon Arnett, out of Ohio State. I don't know where they find these guys or what kind of program they got there, but boy, I'll tell you, Ohio State they didn't hit gold when they put DBs in the NFL. Me being an Alabama fan, if I can say that, then it's true. Like these dudes they be studs. So I'm looking at the cornerback out of Ohio State. Offensive line, because they made that whopping trade for Larry Tunsil that won a lot of money. So offensive line, I'm looking at a guy, Robert Hunt out of Louisiana. Now LSU, Louisiana, College, Louisiana. Robert Hunt, I'm looking at him. And then defensive line, I'm looking at another Buckeye, Devin Hamilton for the defensive line. Those are 3 of the maybe 12 to 15 positions they need. So I went cornerback, offensive line, defensive line.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much for the Texans, what jumped off to me was the defensive line. I feel like this is a team that needs to stay in the trenches as far as their process goes. Defensive line jumped out just because DJ Reader's gone now, and JJ Watt that decline looks pretty steep at this point, and you're probably never going to get another season out of him around what he really could do back in the day. Defensive end and that kind of 3-4 is a little weak outside of Watt, so I think this is where you get a guy like I have Raekwon Davis going here, 6'7", 311, a perfect 3-4 DT. He has that size to kind of hold that spot, but he still has enough quickness and speed to kind of be a pass rushing threat when they need it, like some guy that a guy like Watt. And then another guy in the second round you could also get is Marlon Davidson of Auburn. I don't think he has quite the pass rush set, but he's still over 300 pounds, and he's a guy that's a senior. He's been contributing a long time, and you could plug him in there, and he would just be right out of the gate. He'd be set. And then any other additional on the offensive line would be nice for Watson. I always feel like that dude is just running for his life 24/7. So I think that if I was the Texans, I would be in the trenches this point.
Yeah, I got to get back in here real quick. So listen, the reason they don't remember, they traded Jadeveon Clowney for a box of cookies. So that's why they have a need outside linebacker. The cornerbacks, listen, Bill O'Brien out here trading for former first-round picks like Garen Conley and Vernon Hargraves. We've already seen enough. They're not good, but yet you bring them on in here, some reclamation project. So really, the need that surpasses all these is general manager, but you can't find one of those in the draft. That's it.